of the Civil Rights Commission, and I'm going to call this meeting for March 21st, 2022 to order. I want to welcome everyone joining us this evening. As we begin, I will note for the record that this meeting has remote participation by members of the commission and city staff as authorized under Minnesota Statutes Section 13D.021 due to the declared public health emergency. The city will be recording and posting this meeting to the city's website and YouTube channel to increase public access and transparency. This meeting is public and subject to the Minnesota Open Meeting Law. At this time, I'll ask the clerk to call roll so we can verify quorum for this meeting.
Commissioner Bergquist.
Here.
Commissioner Kobia.
Here.
Commissioner Crowder.
Here.
Commissioner Davis.
Here.
Commissioner Devenish.
Here.
Commissioner Fine.
Here.
Commissioner Folk. Commissioner Hartz. Commissioner Herkman.
Here.
Commissioner Lord.
Here.
Commissioner Rance. Commissioner Shepard. Commissioner Stignani.
Here.
Commissioner Shoemake.
Here.
There are 10 present. We have a quorum.
Thank you. Let the record reflect. I'm sorry.
Oh, sorry. This is Commissioner Folk. I was just hopped on. Sorry, I was having issues.
Okay, then we have 11.
Thank you so much. Let the record reflect we have quorum. Adoption of the agenda. Commissioners, the agenda for today's meeting is before us. May I please have a motion to adopt the agenda?
So moved.
Thank you. I'm sorry, was that Commissioner, I'm sorry, which Commissioner?
Commissioner Fine did the motion.
Okay.
Crowder seconded.
Okay, thank you so much, gentlemen. I appreciate you. We have a proper motion before us by Commissioner Fine and seconded by Commissioner Crowder. Is there any discussion before the clerk calls the roll? With that, seeing none, I'll ask the clerk to call the roll on the motion.
Chair Devenish, Commissioner Rance is now in the meeting. So we have 12 people present.
Thank you. Welcome, Commissioner Rance.
Thanks.
We are on the process of discussing the agenda for today. Do you have any questions or comments regarding the agenda, sir?
No, I don't. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. With that, seeing none, I'll ask the clerk to call the roll on the motion.
Commissioner Bergquist.
Yes.
Commissioner Kobia.
Yes.
Commissioner Crowder.
Yep.
Commissioner Davis.
Yes.
Commissioner Devenish.
Yes.
Commissioner Fine.
Yes.
Commissioner Folk.
Yes.
Commissioner Herkman.
Yes.
Commissioner Lord.
Yes.
Commissioner Rance.
Yes.
Commissioner Stignani.
Yes.
Commissioner Shoemake.
Yes.
You have 12 ayes.
Thank you. With that, the motion passes and the agenda is adopted. Thank you. Moving on to acceptance of minutes. Next is acceptance of minutes from the meeting. May I please have a motion to accept the minutes?
So moved.
I'm sorry, was that Commissioner who?
Yeah,
Denati and,
Commissioner Fine. Commissioner Fine seconds.
okay. Thank you, Commissioner Stenati, for putting it into motion, and thank you, Commissioner Fine, for seconding the motion. With that, we have a proper motion before us. Is there any discussion before the clerk calls the roll?
This is Commissioner Bergquist. I'll again say I'm not able to open the link, so I'll be abstaining again.
Thank you, Commissioner Bergquist. I have a question to the city. Is there anything we can do to help Commissioner Bergquist be able to open the link?
Vice Chair Devenish, this is Kayla. Commissioner Bergquist, are you getting some sort of error message, or what's the impediment? And if you're saying something, I believe you're on mute.
No, I'm trying to reproduce the problem that it's when I click on the link in the agenda, it doesn't open. It gives me an error message when I try to open the link in the agenda.
This is Commissioner Shoemake. I had the same problem when from the link in the email. However, when I opened it up in LIMS, the links worked.
Yeah, but I see that Commissioner Shoemake, you put this in the chat, and I did too. The link, the direct link. I just opened it and it worked. I'm hoping that link would work.
Yes, it does link. That does work for me. Is there any reason it can't be attached rather than using that link? Because I don't want to have to be in the LIMS system in order to engage with the commission.
We can certainly look into that. Yeah, sending it as an attachment instead of a link, or trying to fix whatever that link issue is from the email.
That'd be great. Thank you.
Commissioner Bergquist, would you like to take a few minutes to review the minutes from the meeting?
No, I think I'm good. I've had a chance to skim. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Is there any other discussion at this time? With that, seeing none, I'll ask the clerk to call the roll on the motion, please.
Commissioner Bergquist,
Yes.
Commissioner Cobia,
Yes.
Commissioner Crowder,
Yes.
Commissioner Davis,
Yes.
Commissioner Devenish,
Yes.
Commissioner Fine,
Yes.
Commissioner Folk,
Yes.
Commissioner Herkman,
Yes.
Commissioner Lord, Commissioner Rance,
Yes.
Commissioner Stignani,
Yes.
Commissioner Shoemake.
Yes.
Is Commissioner Lord there?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
all right, you have 12 ayes.
Thank you so much. Next, we have a presentation, which is item number 4, outreach to possible commission applicants from the Civil Rights Department staff. Item 4 on the agenda is outreach to possible commission applicants, which will be given by civil rights staff.
Sorry about that. I was having some trouble turning my camera on. Hi, everybody. I'm Andrew Hawkins. I'm the Chief of Staff for the Minneapolis Department of Civil Rights. Currently, my staff are responsible for outreach on behalf of the department. One of them had a conflict tonight, so I was happy to step in and pinch hit here. So I'm going to share my screen. I have just a short presentation to go through some of the outreach avenues that we're using during the current appointment cycle, what the applicant process looks like. It's a continuation of something that we actually started piloting at the end of 2020 with one of our groups, and then kind of take any questions, get any input from all of you in terms of things that you'd like to see or what might be helpful. As as far as being able to recruit the the best possible applicant pool that we can for some of your vacancies. So if there's nothing else, I will share my screen here and we'll get going. All right. Does everybody have that?
Yes,
Yes.
sir.
Yes.
For the double check. So as far as our current planned outreach efforts to potential applicants, it's a number of methods. We want to make sure that we reach the widest range possible. We have messaging through our social media accounts from the Department of Civil Rights. We've got multiple mailing lists through our Gov Delivery site. We also have the city website that we're currently in the process of rolling stuff out so that people have access to the information from as wide an array of possible sources. Beyond that, we have outreach materials that are going to being sent to the mayor and council offices this week so that they can share those with their constituents. We are working with the city communications and human resources department on expanding audiences for potential messaging. Obviously, HR and comms both have, somewhat different, I think different and more broad, scopes of outreach areas identified than we do. So we want to make sure that we're using everything that we possibly can. We also want to make sure that we provide outreach materials to you so that you are all able to share them through your own personal networks. And then beyond that, it's identifying potential areas for expanded outreach efforts and scope. Kind of one of the reasons to focus on this is, we do want to have like the equity and geographic diversity lens as well. We want to make sure that the city as a whole is represented, to the greatest extent possible. Right now, based on the applicants that we currently have and the consistency of the existing commission, I believe we have unrepresented wards in Ward 1, 2, 6, 8, and 9. And then we have underrepresentation, meaning just we currently have one member from Wards 4 and Ward 7. So those are areas where I think we'd want to consider some expanded efforts to make sure that we're rounding out populations from those areas so that we can have some members on your commission from those groups. Continuing to expand the scope of outreach materials. This is something just, I think, kind of coming out of COVID here and with the, this understanding that we're going to be back sort of out together again. This is something that we're looking at, I think, more broadly as a department, but it also applies to you. And that's just making sure that outreach materials exist in a variety of formats. And so that can be anything from a brochure to a, one sheet, one page where it's, a little more text heavy. This is something that we have been working on for your group. Again, it hasn't gone out yet, so if anybody's got any issues, I'm definitely more than happy to have the discussion. But I think that knowing that people absorb materials in a variety of ways, it's important to make sure that we're like doing things in a variety of different methods to make sure that we're kind of capturing everybody that we possibly can that might have interest in this group. Currently, our timeline for both applications and interviews, Friday, March 18th. So this previous Friday, the application period opened. It will by April 8th. We want to have the first round of candidates interviewed and potential candidates identified. When we piloted this before, we did the same thing, knowing that we're on kind of abbreviated schedules. We want to make sure that you're not going to run into any issues with quorum, and that you're we can get you at least that initial batch of people to kind of give you that buffer. We want to do that as soon as possible. I believe the application period runs through April 15th, so anybody kind of coming in on a back end will be identified for the second round of interviews. So again, April 8th, first round of candidates are interviewed and identified. Wednesday, April 20th, that would be when a public hearing is set at the Public Health and Safety meeting. Wednesday, May 4th is when the public hearing would be held. I believe the last cycle, I don't know, I can't remember if we did it for MCCR or not, but like generally that would be one where they would ask that any potential people coming forward can just participate remotely in case there's questions or anything from any of the members of that commission, especially with a lot of new members from on the city council. That's probably one that I would flag. Wednesday, May 4th, the public hearing's held, and the candidates are moved forward unless there's any objections or delays. And then Thursday, May 12th, city council meeting's held, and that recommendation from the Public Health and Safety Committee will be moved forward. Monday, May 16th is your first meeting. So again, the timelines on this work out fairly well. I think that if we get things through on the 12th, we would be able to get them, on the 4th from our home committee, the Public Health and Safety. We'd be able to get it through the city council on the 12th. If for some reason that got delayed, it would push it back. But that's something I think we're going to try as hard as we can to make this timeline work because the timing works out well. So Monday, May 16th would be the Minneapolis Commission on Civil Rights meeting. We would onboard new members, do the swearing in, hopefully prior to the meeting, and then we would conduct the annual training at that regularly scheduled meeting. It's always good to do that in public meetings when we can, since it provides an opportunity for members of the public to kind of see what the training entails, what's being expected, what some questions are, and yeah, I mean any opportunities for transparency are always worth considering. So moving on, the interview and appointment process, as I kind of opened up with in the fall of 2020, the Civil Rights Department began piloting a new commission appointment process. One of the reasons was just simply, we were post-pandemic and post, murder of George Floyd. We had, there was a lot going on, a lot of demand on our and some of our staff. We had some areas where people had left and positions were frozen. So like I actually stepped in with staff and having worked on our HR side for a while, there were some areas where I wanted to see if we could standardize this. And so, for this one, we worked with some of our equity staff in the city, as well as just kind of hearing from a variety of people, council included, in what were some of the areas of concern, and the areas identified for increased focus were racial equity, geographic diversity, diversity of perspective, and fit to purpose of the commission. Another goal was to provide a consistent process for applicants, to interview panelists and staff. Civil rights has, one panel, one committee, and 2 commissions. It's a lot for a small department, but still, just even the experience kind of across all of those is very different. And so, trying to center that and keep things as consistent as we can, so that people know what to expect, I think is something that we need to strive to do. Another goal was expanding opportunities from remote participation from applicants, elected officials, or their staff. Like obviously the pandemic being what it was, I think one of the things that we've kind of gained has been this remote participation option, which it makes it a lot easier for people to participate. When they otherwise might not be able to. If there's an interview during the day and you have to come to City Hall, that's a lot more of a demand than if you can just hop on the computer, and conduct your interview that way. The other benefits from this, it was an increased transparency and familiarity with the processes. Again, the ease of access one helps increase representation, both in applicants, but also in interview panels. Council schedules are busy, mayoral staff are busy, but at the same time, like making this as easy as possible, it definitely increased the participation we got from that side, which I think was very valuable. It's also a chance for applicants to engage with elected representatives early in the process. This is something that I think is incredibly important. We've actually had people follow up with us, and people that that they really liked in interviews that got put on the commission to see how they're doing. And if there's any applicants that are going to be interviewed from a specific ward, we'll always make sure that the ward representation is notified, and so that they can participate. But that was definitely a change that was certainly for the positive. With that, I know I talk very fast. If you need me to go back and cover anything else, I'm more than happy to. Otherwise, I'm happy to stand for any questions or input from the group, since I want to make sure that we're all on the same page going forward.
We have stuff in the chat, so could you address that?
All right, so I couldn't see it when, so here.
Yes. So I do see Commissioner Lord and I do see Commissioner Bergquist, both with their hands up. Commissioner Lord, could you please go ahead, please?
Sure. I'm wondering if you could possibly go back to slide 3, please. That'd be possible.
Oh, certainly, 1 second here.
Thank you.
Oh, no, I'll share this all with you as well. There's that one. If anybody, and yeah, I mean, if there's specific materials that anybody has any input on or questions, I'm happy to hear it. But then and I should clarify too, this is something I had mocked up. I want to make sure that everyone's happy with it before
We're
anything
not
goes.
seeing your screen.
I stopped sharing. That's completely my fault.
Yeah, no,
hang on a second.
Sure, because you were proposing that some version of this be disseminated, correct? Of slide 3, this.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I just wanted to provide a recommendation that maybe in the headline you put the now accepting applications and try to make it as large or integrate it with the headline a little bit, just because I glossed right over that and I was like, are they even asking me to do anything? That might be helpful. So just a suggestion to make sure you're clear about what you want people to do and you have that in the headline.
Yep, that's absolutely appreciated. And then the other thing too, as we're kind of, as we're getting back into more of the face-to-face, like the need for printed materials. So that's something where I think for, if we do things like this or a smaller, like a little, almost like pamphlet size, right. I think we want to engage, like one of the things we would probably implement in that situation is the QR codes. So that people can just scan it with their phones, take them right there, let them go that route too. Yeah. So we want to make it as accessible as possible. And yeah, I appreciate that comment.
Cool.
Commissioner Bergquist, please go ahead, ma'am.
Thanks. I have a few questions and I'll just kind of pose them all at once and then let you handle them, Andrew. So first, in terms of a couple of timeline questions, first on the going back to 2021, it was the Police Conduct Oversight Commission that was the sort of trial commission for this. Is that right? And understandably, a lot of interest on the part of the city council and the mayor's office for particularly for the police conduct oversight commission. So I'm glad to hear that they were involved in the vetting process, the interview process, and all of that. Can you tell me, because we had we were soliciting applications. I think the first deadline was October 1st, 2021. It might have been a little bit earlier, sometime around there. At what point was it decided that this was that while the pilot was going on for PCOC, that the department wasn't going to do anything for the Civil Rights Commission? Like, when did that decision get made? Because, we were not informed that we were being put on hold. And of course, we had seats expire as of the end of 2021. And fortunately, we're not in a situation anymore where we have a quorum established under the ordinance. So we have a little bit of wiggle room. But when did that decision get made to not only pilot with the PCOC, but to put our commission on hold? That's my first question. My second question is moving forward, when is the department going to get its proposed slate of commissioners to the Public Health and Safety Committee for their consideration? You said when the committee was going to be scheduled, but when is the department handing over its list so that list would be public so we can all take a look at that and see who's recommended? Then another question I have is with respect to the interviews, will current members of the commission be involved in the interview process? I know that had been a practice in the past. Is that going to be happening going forward? And so that would be interesting for all of us to hear whether the commission itself will have a say in terms of what the department's recommendations will be to the city council and to the mayor. And then finally, another question. I think you said your position is chief of staff. Is that a new position, or is that just a position I haven't heard of before? Or did you replace somebody who was already chief of staff and I just wasn't familiar with that title? I'm just kind of curious about when that position came to be. Thanks.
Absolutely. Here, I'm just double checking my dates as well, so I can answer one of your first questions, which was the RCA. Wow, did I take it out? The RCA is due the Monday prior, like the Monday the week prior to the meeting. So if I believe the way the timing works out, that is when everything would be submitted, and I'm happy to send that out on as soon as I can find it here. But I might have taken it off my initial thing here, just in the interest of getting everything to fit. But here, one second. I believe so. I believe April 11th would be the initial RCA for round one. In the past, we've split this up into two different rounds. The reason being that we have people that have reapplied. We want to get them through the process as soon as possible, as well as a lot of the applicants we get. They do come in on the front end of this process. So hopefully, we have a good amount of people. We can go through everything, do the initial screening, start the process, and then we can also do the subsequent round two. From the PCOC, I think we did, believe it was probably, I think it was close to 50-50 in terms of the appointments between round one and round two to fill all of the vacancies for that group. So there is a split, but it also it makes it a little bit more manageable. I know that this is something that got drawn out due to the request that we stay in the identified windows for the appointment process. So we want to respect that, while also respecting that this is something that's been like ongoing for a while, and people would like to get that stuff squared away. So my position, I've been with the department for 5 years, so I think it is new. I don't know that it existed prior. I manage the Office of Administration and Policy. We've got a couple staff with us. We basically run the administrative side of the department. That was something that had kind of been decentralized in civil rights and was pulling from a lot of different places. So the previous director felt that it was like something to consider, like pulling into one spot, similar to everybody, I think every other department in the city. But yeah, so it's not ongoing, but if we never met, it's wonderful to meet you, Commissioner. At the same time, let's see here. What other questions? I know there were quite a few of them. When the decision was made, like Kayla can remind me, but obviously during that, we've had a fair bit of turnover. We've had a number of, interim directors for a while. So that was certainly during that period. I think that after we had piloted it, it worked fairly well. I had talked to Kayla about implementing this. I know during that time she was kind of in the midst of all of her resources getting poured into staffing up her own group, so that they'd have the capacity to continue their investigations and none of that be impacted. So I don't know how well stuff was communicated. I'm sure there was something that could have been done better, and it was simply down to limitations on resources, and that, a lot of the other resources we would normally tap into in the city were like spread pretty thin with, the election and just everything that was going on. It's certainly a challenging time. So I apologize to anybody that wasn't able to get the communication that they had hoped for. But Commissioner Berquist, I'm sorry, I know you might have had another one. I'm just trying to go through everything in my head and make sure that I touched on it. Was there anything else?
Sure. Yeah. So in terms of the time frame, it sounds like it wasn't decided in October when we were still accepting applications and encouraging people to apply. It might have been decided late November, early December. That was when it was decided. Is that an approximate time frame?
I think it was probably decided prior with the assumption that we'd be able to, we'd be able to do everything in the window that we wanted. However, just I think, limitations on resources put, like a strain on that. And then I think once the council had turned over, I think, as much as it did, it seemed like it was something where, the plan that I had proposed to Kayla was that we wait until the new council was seated, everybody's, was sworn in, they had their committee assignments, and that way we could involve them, since I think, anytime you have a turnover of more than 50%, we want to make sure that we involve that group to the greatest extent possible, since they work quite a bit with you. So
Yeah, it just seems sort of odd that we were continuing to be encouraging people to apply. The deadline was being extended. We were being led to believe that people were going to be interviewed and a new slate of commissioners was going to be proposed to start at the beginning of the year, as has always been the practice. And it doesn't sound like there was actually a decision. It was just sort of lack of action on the part of the department. They said, okay, well, we're this far, we haven't done what we're supposed to do. And so I guess we'll just, expand this pilot. And now that we piloted with PCOC, we'll do it with the other commission. Is that an inaccurate representation of what happened?
I think lack of capacity and lack of action are different things. Again, with the resources that we had during the period that we were going through, I think that some decisions needed to be made about what needs to be done with the department. We can keep it running administratively, we can keep doing investigations, or we can pull every resource we have off and do commission appointments. It takes the same volume of resources from our side to get people hired in the first place. So, again, it's one of those where, like, I certainly will, apologize to anybody for any frustrations with communications. I think that was something that, that wasn't done in the manner that we normally would have done it. But at the same time, it was one of those where sometimes, like, the only thing you can say is, like, we were doing the best we could with the, at the time. So,
yeah. So I understand there were like 7 people who had applied last year. Has there been any effort on the part of the department to reach out to them to say, we've received your application, we're still in the process of scheduling interviews? Has there been any communication to any of those applicants? Because I was one of those applicants and I haven't received any communication, but I don't know if I'm unique.
Okay.
I did not, I received the sort of automatic notification at the time, but I haven't, obviously, because for people who aren't attending Civil Rights Commission meetings in their spare time, as far as they know, they applied and the seats were to be filled as of January 1st or, as of January 2022, and they never heard anything. And so they may know nothing. And that could be insulting for people who went to the trouble to fill out, a not simple application form and all of that. So has anyone been notified? And if not, can the department fix that, and do they need to reapply? We were told at our last meeting that they don't need to reapply, which would be good, but they should also be told what the situation is, because otherwise I don't think it's fair to the commissioners who did a lot of work trying to recruit people, to encourage people to apply, and for the people who did apply, I just don't think it's very kind to behave in that way to people who have expressed interest in joining our commission.
And Andrew, I'm happy to take this one if that's okay. Commissioner Berquist, we did communicate to all the folks that applied to let them know that we were holding off until this next cycle. We did not reach out to the returning commissioners because you've been at these meetings and gotten the updates. So our apologies on that. That wasn't an intent to leave anyone out. It was just thinking that we needed to get the information out to the folks that weren't regularly attending meetings, like you noted. But as I said last time, that still stands. If you applied during the last cycle, you do not need to reapply. We will be considering all those applications with any new ones coming on.
And then I think my last question that didn't get touched on was whether current commissioners will be involved in the interview process.
Yep, and that's when I think I talked to Kayla, and it sounds like that was something that was already expressed to commissioners. So with that being the case, I don't have any ambitions to deviate from, what had already been discussed with everybody. So I believe that they will be involved in some capacity.
Mr. Hawkins, we have some comments in the chat. Commissioner Signati says that you could check pro bono directors of law firms in town. Commissioner Signati, would you like to speak to that, please? I do see your hand is raised.
I would, thank you. So, one of the things that what is our deficit? Is it non-attorneys or is it attorneys?
We have, I believe, and Kayla will correct me if I'm wrong here, but I believe there are 2 vacancies that are, when I say vacancies, I mean seats that have been vacated that are attorneys, and there's 1 open attorney seat that is Commissioner Berquist's seat, and she's obviously reapplied and returning. So I just wanted to make sure I differentiated those 2.
Okay. So one of the things that I don't see an awful lot of outreach, to the, we have a number of larger law firms in town and quite competent smaller ones as well. I don't need to differentiate on size, but they're always looking for pro bono opportunities. I find this is a useful and a helpful pro bono opportunity, at least for my work. And I think that to the degree that this outreach is done to the Hennepin County Bar Association, or any other members of the downtown Minneapolis attorney community, would probably net you more than you probably need. So, and then the second, you answer my question about differential there. So my questions are answered.
Thank you, Commissioner Signati. Also, we have in the chat, Commissioner Shoemake. When is the second round of interviews? Was that question answered for you? And I do see your hand is raised.
Yes. I did not get a clear date on when the second round of interviews. I'm guessing they would just begin at some point after the first round finishes. One just kind of point of order question is that Commissioner Signani is, from my understanding, is not an attorney commissioner, or is he an attorney commissioner now that I think we're down to 7 attorneys? Maybe
I can speak.
Kayla.
I can speak to this one if that's helpful. So Commissioner Stignani is not in an attorney seat right now, but has submitted an application to get him moved into an attorney seat. So that'll be a part of this appointment cycle.
Okay. I will reserve my other questions for afterwards. Thank you.
Mr. Hawkins, I put in the chat because I am a current resident of Ward 4. So within my particular ward, I would like to see the Civil Rights Department communicate more with local businesses. Some examples include Northside Cub Foods, Neon, North Point and Wellness, colleges, which includes MCTC. Hennepin County has over 9,000 employees, and they have different people of color, employee resource groups. And to point to Mr. Stignati's point of having access to the Board Association and also to other lawyers who are interested in working pro bono. Also in Ward 4, there's the Shiloh Temple and Mother's Love. I think a lot of times we have great opportunities, but sometimes the communication is not reached to the masses where it needs to be reached. So maybe developing a point person to communicate with these agencies to help recruit, number one, more people of color and just more community members in general. Also, Commissioner Davis put in the chat, I was wanting to reapply and miss deadline. When was that opportunity open up? And I did see Kayla respond to that in the chat, but just to talk to Commissioner Davis, did that response in the chat satisfy your question? Commissioner Davis?
I'm looking at it right now. I didn't realize she had applied. I apologize.
Okay.
Let's see. Oh, I can definitely click on that then and take care of that.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner Davis.
Thank you for that. Mhm.
Yes, Mr. Hawkins, do you think a member from the Civil Rights Department will be reaching out to some of these organizations that I mentioned in the chat?
Absolutely, and I definitely appreciate everybody putting the list in there. So both for, for the commission and just in general, I think, we're always absolutely, open for people to share the contacts that they have so that we can kind of expand that scope of communication. I think, when things get, again, when resources are tight and things are busy and you're, like it just seems like you're just trying to get, like the core functions done. Communication is one of the things that can, that tends to go first. Like having, like been able to expand staff and bring back some of these, positions that have been, frozen for a while. This is actually one of the areas that we're being the most intentional about building out, since I know how important it is. And just based on the comments tonight, I think that that's reinforced by the group where that's something that everybody wants to see. So, yep, I can absolutely share these with our staff and make sure that we reach out and share some materials on the appointment process and the application process and make sure that we get everybody routed to the right place.
Thank you, Mr. Hawkins. And one more comment from Commissioner Shoemake, University of Minnesota Human Rights Program and Law Clinic would be a great resource as well. Commissioner Shoemake, would you like to speak to that comment, please?
Right after I posted this, I realized that there are many employees in the department, including Kayla, who worked in the human rights program. So I think y'all probably have a good connection. If there's any support I can provide, I'm here for it, but I think you might be good on that front.
And I would like to add to that, I think about the state of Minnesota Human Rights Commission that they recently started. So I think that'd be a good resource as well. Thank you, Mr. Hawkins. Thank you everyone for participating and giving great feedback. Are there any additional questions or comments to Mr. Hawkins' ideas and next steps? Okay, seeing no further questions, I will direct the clerk to receive and file that report.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you,
Have
sir.
a great.
Thank you.
Moving on to
Thank
section.
you.
Oh, sorry. Moving on to section number 5, the Civil Rights Update by Ms. Allison Cole, Esquire.
Yeah, Commissioner Devenish, if you don't mind, I'll give an intro for Allison.
Yes, please, sir.
So Allison is one of, works at the same law firm I work at. She's one of our brightest associates in coming into this year's group of attorneys. And she has graciously agreed to put together a civil rights update for us for about 10 minutes worth of work. Any questions you have, this is kind of a first-time test group. So anything you'd like to see more of or less of, we'll take that away and we'll do this. But we hope that Allison will grace us with an update every so often here, probably once a quarter. So Allison, please take it away.
Thank you. Good evening, everybody. It's nice to meet you all. So as Commissioner Signani said, my name is Allison Cole. I am an associate at a law firm in town. And part of the civil rights update that we thought would be important is a summary of the ongoing civil rights litigation going on in town. Since December 31st, there have been 5 civil lawsuits filed against the Minneapolis Police Department and the city that all actually vary in facts and situations, but all equally important. Just at a macro level, one case involves a immigrant family of Hmong descent, and another involves I saw a question in the chat. Yes, we can provide support and contact information after, excuse me, sorry. So one case involves a Hmong American family, one case involves a African-American man who was arrested, one case involves a woman who was at the 3rd precinct demonstrating after the murder of George Floyd and was significantly injured. So I'm going to take you through kind of the facts of each of these cases. The counts against the city and the police department are all very similar and all have similar named defendants. The first case is the Young family versus the city of Minneapolis. The Young family was of Hmong American descent. The victim, the entire family really was a victim in this case. But the father in the family was shot multiple times by multiple police officers in his home. His 4 children were detained while they were confronting him with a mental health emergency and situation. Mr. Young unfortunately passed away from his injuries within the confrontation, and his 4 children were detained with Minneapolis police because they were witnesses to the event. One of the children involved is a minor, and the facts of this case are really long and dense, and they kind of bounce around. So, but the gist of it is the entire family was detained. They weren't told why they were being detained. They weren't given updates about what was going on. Part of it was that there was confidential information, but it's a pretty upsetting situation. And I think there's in the complaint itself, you can see how each and every single family member has a claim against the city beyond just the deceased. The second case is Holmes v. the City of Minneapolis. In this case, there was a man who was 68 years old at the time of the incident. He was babysitting for his grandson. The family, his grandson had the parents of the grandson had a history of domestic violence issues, and he was keeping custody of his grandson for the night. The son's mother had an issue with this, and the Minneapolis police came to the home, and being a protective grandfather, he would not allow the police to take his grandson without giving a reason, because he felt his grandson would be in danger if he left with the police and went with his mother. The police said, we will have to arrest you for not complying with orders, and he said, arrest me. He was then slammed on the ground, and since then, and sustained a decently severe shoulder injury, and has had complications with that shoulder injury since then. So that was another case as well. The next case is Alexander v. City of Minneapolis. The facts of this case are a bit more vague in the complaint, but Mr. Alexander was pulled over in a rental car with a passenger with him, and he and his passenger were stopped by multiple Minneapolis police officers with guns drawn. They were removed from the vehicle, they were searched, they were seized, and they were placed in the back of squad cars. The police then proceeded to search the vehicle. He maintains that it was searched without consent, and they had conspired to find what was found in the vehicle. The next case, and I am almost done, is Bunkholt v. City of Minneapolis. So Miss Bunkholt was a protester and demonstrator and photographer outside of the 3rd precinct after the murder of George Floyd. She was injured by a shot of a less lethal round, a 40 millimeter rubber bullet, and she was shot in the back of the head. Subsequently, after she was shot with the less lethal round, she started seizing at the demonstration and was brought by others that were there to safety and received medical attention, among other things. But she has filed a complaint for the complications she's sustained since then, while she was documenting what was going on outside of the 3rd precinct during the day. The last case I'll summarize for you is Jackson v. City of Minneapolis. Mr. Jackson was in a parking lot with another individual who had Mr. Stallings. Mr. Stallings had fired a shot at a vehicle that was an unmarked police car. Those shots were fired in self-defense, and Mr. Jackson was approached by the police, and in the complaint, he says he was beaten for 2 minutes and fired with a taser for a full 2 minutes, which he claims was a use of excessive force in violation of his civil rights. There are multiple civil claims in his complaint, but that is the his civil rights claim in his complaint. Those are the 5 cases that have been filed since December 31st. They are all in the federal court. I can provide any other additional information. As many of you know, complaints can be very technical and technical in the facts of the case and the stories that that these plaintiffs have to tell. So I am happy to provide a written report afterwards and fill in any blanks or provide complaints to anyone who is interested in reading more.
I see Commissioner Rance. Commissioner Rance, please go ahead.
Yes, thanks. I just want to say thank you for that report. I've been asking for this for a while. I think that we need to have reports like this every meeting so that we have a better scope and perspective of what's going on in civil rights litigation in our city, and that we have a better sense of the kinds of travesties of justice that our residents have to experience, particularly when they're interfacing with, city employees. And I think that helps us to function better as a civil rights commission when we are made aware and kept abreast of what we claim to represent and to advocate for. So please, please continue that. And I want to thank Commissioner Stignati for this invaluable resource.
I also would like to just point out quickly before Commissioner Stignani makes a comment is that the plaintiffs in these cases are all of all different descents, ages, various other things. So I think that is important for the commission to know that these narratives happen to all different people. And I think that that's a really important thing to highlight, that it is not just one subsect of our community, it's all different types of people within our communities. And I think that's really important to continue to highlight.
Commissioner Stignati.
Thank you. And so thank you, Commissioner Rance. We will, do our best. We'd like to hear any commentary you have, written formats, summaries for ahead of time. But this is just kind of a first trial. And depending on Ms. Cole's willingness to do so, we can certainly step it up. Amir Locke's litigation will probably happen by the time our next meeting comes through. So maybe we can focus on selected ones if you wish us to go deeper, or we can certainly look at just kind of the field as a whole as it goes through, and then look at state court actions as well. These are really federal court actions. So really, anybody out here, please feel free to ask. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Stignati. I have a question, Mrs. Cole. Thank you again for taking the time of your busy schedule to meet with us. It's truly an honor. And thank you for the work that you do. What can the Civil Rights Commission do, or the Civil Rights Department do to best support you?
I think right now, if I can get a clear picture of what specifically, if there's a specific type of case that is particularly concerning to the commission, I want to be able to be a clear and useful resource. It's easy to say these are the last 5 cases that have been filed. I should also note that all of these cases were filed in the federal and in the District of Minnesota in federal court, not necessarily state court. Some of them were removed to federal court, which I think is actually also really important to note. So as of now, I can't think of anything more that would be in deep, but I will absolutely be in contact and in communication regarding what more you can do to support my my summaries here. As far as like what's most important as far as information is concerned would really be right now what I would find most helpful in that I want to provide information that's actually useful, not just always a top-down overview of this next person is filing a claim against the city.
Thank you so much for that information, Ms. Cole. It's truly an honor. Commissioner Rance, I do see that your hand is raised, sir.
Yes. Allison, one of the things I was going to say is that we do review a lot of cases when it comes to employment discrimination. And so if we were able to keep some of this local, or if there were cases pertaining to some of the corporations or employers here in the city of Minneapolis, that would be very helpful, particularly with certain court rulings and decisions. So, once again, when we're reviewing these biases and discrimination or wrongful termination, so on and so forth, I think that'd be very helpful for us to have a better sense with some of the big and small employers here. And once again, to have a better understanding of the culture and the vibe that is out there pertaining to civil rights. And I think it helps us to garner more of a perspective to be able to to serve the city better.
So just for clarification, you would like both public sector and private sector employment discrimination cases, but all within Minneapolis proper.
Yeah, because that's the lion's share of the types of cases that we end up reviewing. And so sometimes not making rulings in a vacuum, but also, seeing how some of these corporations are functioning, because at some point, if we continue to see a pattern of bad behavior, then it's an opportunity for the commission to then put some pressure on the city of Minneapolis when it comes to contracting with these employers, right? To time out for that. And so this report would kind of help us have a sense of some of the trends and things that are taking place in our fair city.
I can definitely add that for next time. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Rance. Commissioner Shoemake, I do see that your hand is raised.
Yep. Ms. Cole, thank you so much for your time. This is really, really valuable. I think I'm not alone in saying I would absolutely love to read any report you have to write, or anything you've written would be just really informative. Another thing, and this is what Commissioner Rance was talking about, but a part of our duty as commissioners is to review contested discrimination cases. And so we struggle often as lay people, I think, and also as attorneys, in really establishing just the burden of proof of discrimination. And maybe if in the future, if you wanted to come and present a case to us and explain how we really need to just demonstrate that there's really a protected class and all of the things that need to be met in order for discrimination to be demonstrated. So, yeah, but thank you so much, and come back anytime.
Thank you, Commissioner Shoemake. I have Ms. Neef. I see your hand is raised. Please go ahead.
Sure. Thank you, Chair Devenish. I'd just like to clarify that I appreciate Ms. Cole's presentation, but in terms of providing legal advice regarding the standards that apply in contested case hearings, that's not information she is able to provide, as she is not counsel to the commission. And I'm sure Ms. Cole would be happy to confirm that.
That is correct. I would have to talk to Commissioner Signani, though. I do think that if I I would be allowed to do a breakdown of elements. I could not necessarily give examples, but we can obviously double check and make sure that I'm within my ethical bounds as far as presentation is concerned.
And I certainly wasn't saying that as a point of legal advice, more of education and just like increased awareness around these types of cases.
Thank you again. I do see Commissioner Stignati. Please go ahead, sir.
Thank you. This is directed towards Attorney Nate. Is the city attorney going to provide updates on a regular basis for any changes in case law?
Commissioner Stignati, thank you for your question. I didn't interpret Ms. Cole's presentation to actually be an update on case law. I understood it to be a summary of allegations about recently filed cases, which certainly are available to the public, but don't provide any precedential value in terms of what the actual law is. So the city attorney's office is always happy to provide case law that's established law, but summaries of allegations, while they may be of interest to the commission from a standpoint of what's being alleged in the community, they're not legal advice. So that's not something we would provide now.
No, that's actually not my question. So let me restate. Will the city attorney's office being provided with, to the Civil Rights Commission as law, presidential law is created? Will you be providing updates to us as throughout the year then?
Commissioner Stignati, thank you for the question. I'd be happy to provide answers to questions as they are posed by the commission or as they relate to specific cases that come before the commission. Our office has never just provided general case law updates. I certainly don't object to Ms. Cole providing summaries of existing case law. My point here is that Ms. Cole is not the attorney for the commission.
So noted. That's she's not here for that reason. But I just was curious if we could find good closure on where the line is. Thank you.
Yeah, Commissioner Stignati, I just don't understand Ms. Cole's presentation here to be actually a presentation of case law, but rather a summary of recent allegations against the city, which is quite a different thing. If I misunderstood what she said, I do apologize. That's not my intention, but I heard a summary of allegations and complaints, which is something quite different.
And that would be correct as far as what I intended to do tonight.
Thank you for that clarification.
Thank you.
Commissioner Berquist, please go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to follow up on Commissioner Stignani's point. Since we're not receiving, and in my term on the commission, we've never received an update from the city attorney's office of evolving case law in the 8th Circuit or within the state of Minnesota or at the Supreme Court level. I think it would be extremely valuable to the commission to have the opportunity to receive updates on precedential case law. And if it's not coming from the city attorney's office, even though it wouldn't be legal advice, it would be informative, just like you can get, for people in private practice, get, briefs sent out about, where the circuit splits are, et cetera, et cetera. That's not legal advice either. It's informative, and it would help us do our jobs better if we're hearing contested cases. So I think that would be extremely valuable if we can make that happen.
Thank you, Commissioner Berquist. Ms. Neff, is that something that the Civil Rights Department is able to do?
Chair Devenish, I'm not sure I understand your question regarding when you say, is that something that the department's able to do? Could you clarify?
Yes, ma'am, and I do apologize. I was not clear. I apologize. So I'm wondering, can the department provide case law updates from the county attorney's office that is informative?
Chair Devenish, certainly we can provide case law to the commission, and we'll be happy to do so as it's needed. I don't believe the department has ever provided case law updates simply as a matter of course. I'm not, I think that's something we could talk about, but it's never something that's been done or requested before.
Well, great. Now it's an opportunity to do it. That's awesome. That's innovation. That's progress. That's moving forward. And I think it's a consensus or close to a consensus from the commission. So I don't see what would stand in the way of that.
So Andrea, I can jump in here when it comes to the department, if that's helpful.
Yeah, I think this is a discussion that perhaps we should also have offline about what makes sense from a time and a presentation perspective. Certainly, I'm always happy to provide legal resources. I don't know that a presentation is a most efficient way to do it, but certainly I'd be happy to have an offline discussion about what that might look like. And I do apologize, Kayla. I believe I might have cut you off there. I do apologize for that.
No, that's okay. I was going to echo the same thing and just voice that as of right now, the department, like the Civil Rights Department, would not have the capacity to do that regular updates. We unfortunately only have 3 investigators and quite a few cases to investigate. So that wouldn't be possible for us at this point, but happy to engage in an offline discussion about what could be possible.
Yes, and I similarly share the concerns regarding capacity, but also do want to make sure that case law is provided to the commission as it's needed to do its job.
Commissioner Bergquist, I do see your hand is raised, ma'am.
Yeah, just as a follow-up, I mean, is there any harm to the extent that a law firm would be willing to provide us, say, quarterly or, 3 times a year case law updates that might be relevant to our work, not as a form of legal advice, but just as a sort of informational briefing? Is there any problem with that? Because if the department doesn't have the capacity, and it sounds like maybe the city attorney's office doesn't have the capacity, and if we have a law firm that would be willing to do that free of charge, that sounds like it would be a good solution. And, if that's not a solution, I'm interested in like, what are the issues then? If, like what's the problem with that happening? As I said, like there's the law 360, all those sort of paid providers that provide not legal advice, but provide information about here's a change in the law, and that's publicly available. And why couldn't a law firm compile that and present it to us?
This is Andrea Neff speaking. I think the question is probably directed to me, so I'll attempt to address that. Commissioner Bergquist, thank you for the question. To the extent that it's providing just simply summaries of case law on an informational basis, I would not have a concern with that. I think it does become a problem when it appears to be legal advice, when it's being applied to specific facts before the commission, and so forth. But just purely informational case summaries would not be a problem, in my opinion.
And just on the department side, I agree with what Andrea said. I don't have a problem with that.
Thank you for the wonderful discussion. Thank you again, Ms. Cole, for your time. It is greatly appreciated. Does anyone else have any questions or concerns or anything they would like to address with Ms. Cole, please? And Ms. Cole, do you mind putting some contact information? So since this is recorded live feed, could you put some information if community members wanted to reach out? Who would they talk to? If it's not you, who would they contact?
If you're not in contact with me, obviously Commissioner Stignani, I work with very regularly, so he can also provide my contact information. I can put my email in the chat as well. And my contact information is also available on our law firm's website.
Yeah, please direct it all to me, please.
Okay. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Seeing no further questions, I will direct the clerk to receive and file that report. Number 6, gun violence forum proposal is on the agenda. which will be given by myself. So hopefully everyone got a chance to review the attached document, which was emailed to everyone. Is there anyone on the chat or on the call that did not receive the gun violence attachment? Okay, seeing none, basically it's just an idea to get community members, give them an open space to discuss their lived experience with gun violence. Kayla and I recently had a communication about possibly communicating with the mayor and trying to get another day of Stop the Gun Violence Day. Kayla, could you briefly talk about that, please, ma'am?
Sure, yes, thank you, Vice Chair Devenish. Yeah, happy to give an update. So I reached out to the mayor's public health or public safety aide and let him know that the commission was looking into renewing the Stop the Gun Violence Day as you had asked for and the mayor had granted last year. It sounds like that should be just fine. I haven't gotten complete confirmation, but I did talk to him. He's gonna double check some things, but it looks like that should be definitely possible. So we are making progress, and I will keep you, Commissioner Devenish, of course, informed, and then we can keep the commission informed as soon as that's hopefully a done deal.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. Moving forward is can we are we available to vote on moving forward with Stop the Gun Violence forums?
And I'm sorry, was that a question directed at me?
Oh, just in general, because I'm sorry. I just would like to see if we can vote on this as moving forward as a forum. I do.
And yes, I think you could make a motion to do that and the commission could discuss and then vote on it.
Shoemaker moves to create a forum and vote to approve this.
Thank you. I second the motion. Before we get to voting, I do see Commissioner Signati. I do see your hand is raised, sir. Commissioner Signati, you are on mute. I do see that your hand is raised, sir. Thank you, sir.
So as we're creating a forum here, is it simply a forum in the sense of a group of commissioner members working together, or are we actually going to make these forums for public outreach and public interaction, or are we just at the formation stage here?
Well, it'd be a public forum, as Kayla and I discussed. So correct me if I'm wrong, Kayla. Basically, it'd be open to the public, similar to something we're having now. Sharing information, possibly passing it on to council members, possibly the mayor, to share people's lived experience about gun violence in the community. For me, I live in Ward 4. Just the other day, I can hear gunshots outside of my home. So it's something that I think we need to talk about and create a safe space for it. I try to request money for community members for their time and their shared story, because I know when you had a family member who has been a victim of gun violence, it can be very traumatizing to discuss. However, that idea was declined. So it'd be just community members volunteering their time to share their lived experiences. I hope that answers your question, Mr. Stignati.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. Is there anyone else with any questions or concerns at this time? No. Clerk, can we call roll on starting the gun violence community forums, please?
Yes.
Quick question.
Commissioner.
I apologize. Who was it that seconded the motion?
I did.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Sorry about that. Thank you so much for calling that to my attention.
Commissioner Bergquist,
Yes.
Commissioner Cobia,
Yes.
Commissioner Crowder,
Yeah.
Commissioner Davis,
Yes.
Commissioner Devonish,
Yes, ma'am.
Commissioner Fine,
Yes.
Commissioner Folk,
Yes.
Commissioner Herkman,
Yes.
Commissioner Lord,
Yes.
Commissioner Rance,
Yes.
Commissioner Stignani,
Yes.
Commissioner Shoemake.
Yes.
That's 12 ayes.
Thank you all for your support. It's truly an honor. So moving on, discussion number 7, public hearing training.
And
Are there-
that one I can,
I'm
yep,
sorry.
that one I can talk about. Commissioner Devonish, if that's okay.
Yes, ma'am. Please go ahead.
Great. So this is very brief. I just wanted to kind of put it on everyone's radar. We are planning to, so as I've mentioned before, I think in meetings, we have some outstanding contested public hearings that we need to conduct with commissioners on those panels. So it will likely be 3 cases over, I'm hoping we can get them all done by the end of 2022. But to that end, we need to get all of our commissioners who could be participating trained up on what exactly public hearings are, what to expect in the process. So we are holding that training this coming Wednesday at 6 p.m. It's during the regularly scheduled standard and procedures subcommittee meeting. So the expectation is that all the attorney members will be present since they are all on that subcommittee. But also any of the other commissioners who are interested are certainly welcome to attend. And I will note, though, that only attorney members can serve on the public hearing. So that's why we're doing the training during that subcommittee instead of, having a lot of folks have to spend a lot of time listening to stuff when they can't actually serve on the public hearing committee. So if you have any questions between now and then, feel free to reach out. But I just wanted to put that on everyone's radar that it's very important to attend that meeting. And it looks like Commissioner Crowder, you have a question? Go for it.
Yeah, I know I'm not going to be able to make that. So is there like a makeup session we could set up so that I could go through the training at another time? Sorry, I just have a something late that night I'm not going to be able to get out of.
Sure, no, understandable. So we don't have a makeup session planned. I will say that it will be recorded just like our other meetings are, so it will be available. And
Great.
certainly we can make ourselves available for questions if you were to go through that and still have outstanding questions. But I would really encourage everybody who absolutely can make it to please do, so that you can ask the questions in real time while we're there, and we can, hopefully all get on the same page as quick as possible.
Sure. I'll knock that out this week and just send you an email after I've watched the recording.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you, Kayla. Thank you so much. Are there any other questions or comments from any of the commissioners at this time? Seeing no further questions or concerns, I will direct the clerk to receive and file that report. Number 8, review panel updates and assignments.
Yeah, I was gonna say, Janelle, do you want to go, or Commissioner Shoemake, do you want to go first, and then I'll take it.
Yeah, I'll get us started. So I'm just gonna briefly talk through. We do these panels. We had a couple years where we kind of fell behind, and I tried to crack the whip. And I think we've been doing a really great job, and we need to keep the momentum going. This is reviewing case. Review panels. Words escape me. Review panels is a part of our duty as commissioners. And so if you read section 2 of our operating handbook, you can read all about it there. But I'm going to share my screen and show y'all. Let's see. if I can. Otherwise, Kayla, you have access to that file if you just want to open it up. It's in presentable view.
Great, I can, I'm gonna go look for it here quick.
Okay.
Janelle, do you have the link for the meeting, for the SNP training? On
my calendar?
Yes, I was wondering if we could put it in the chat, so if community members want to join, they could join.
Yeah, I do not currently have it in my calendar.
Okay.
Commissioner Devenish, I have the, like the number to join to call in for members of the public. I can put that in the chat shortly.
Okay, thank you so much.
Let's see. The file is just called Review Panels, Kayla. I apologize for this, everyone. I have it up and ready.
No problem. I think I have it open here, so just a second while I share my screen.
If you go to the Case Assignments tab.
I'll make sure that's what I'm at before I share. Okay, yep, cool. Okay, can you see that?
Yes. Wonderful. If you want to collapse like the header bar. So we have, and maybe just zoom in quite a bit. So we're doing 3 cases a month like we did last year. I have a table on the left has just case numbers 1 through however many, maybe 13, 14. You can see who's the attorney commissioners, who's not. I have a pivot table on the right there just breaking out, making sure no one is getting slammed in a single month besides Jeff this month, Commissioner Cobia, but he'll be okay. And yeah, so if y'all want to take a little time and maybe take a screenshot of this, Kayla, maybe scroll down in a little bit so people have time, but I would encourage y'all to reach out to the other people on your panel. And even, even for May, June, if you want to set up time now to meet and you have capacity before that month to get your panel done, that would be an extremely helpful thing for our work in the future, but also for the department. So that is where we're at. Are there any questions?
Is there any way you can email this information to us, or?
Yes, yeah, I'll send it to, or Kayla, if you just want to copy that table and send it out to the commissioners. Otherwise,
yes,
I would be happy to, I'll be sending out emails to the 3 panelists for each case as we come along. One other note is that Kayla and the department are going to send out review conflicts of interest forms for all of the cases now, so that if there are conflicts of interest, we can reassign and move commissioners around.
Thank you, Commissioner Shoemake. I do see people with their hand raised, Commissioner Lord and former Commissioner Gold. Please go ahead, Commissioner Lord.
This is a question for Kayla. I need to have my SharePoint access reset. Who can I reach out to do that in order to view case materials?
Yeah, we can take care of that. So I'm actually going to jump into a little bit more on review panels here too. But one of the things that I was going to mention is that Ashley Gold will be the new kind of point person for all of the logistics around review panels. So you can work with her to make sure that we can figure that out and make sure that you have access. And I'm happy to wait for, I think there's another question, unless Ashley, is that just a part of our presentation?
Oh, I was just going to say, can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, great. Hi, everyone. I was just going to say, I can send out that file when I also send the conflict of interest forms. That way everyone has the names and the cases, and then the conflict of interest form, if that works for everyone.
Thank you, Ms. Gold. That would be very helpful.
I would just recommend copy that one tab over and delete the column with the actual case numbers until we assign them to the individual commissioners.
And I do have one question. If someone is sick or unable to keep, you know, their designated spot, do they find a replacement or do they communicate with you, Kayla? Or both?
So I think it probably could be either or. I think in the past people have communicated with us and we've come up with a replacement, but I'm certainly not opposed to, you know, somebody coming forward with already having someone in mind that could take their place. I will note that with how we do review panels now, and with them being virtual, and not having to meet at a specified time, a lot of times I think you can just reschedule with your panel and hopefully you can still serve on it. But certainly there could be a circumstance where you have an extended illness or something, and then you'd need to be replaced. And so either way would be fine. You can just reach out to us and we'll try to find a replacement. Happy to have you suggest a replacement, whatever works for your particular situation.
As long as there's not a conflict. That's one thing we do have to ensure.
Yeah, that's a great point, Commissioner Shoemaker. And same with, and I think a lot of folks know this, but like if you're an attorney member who can't serve, you know, the person replacing you has to be another attorney member. So there are some logistics like that to keep in mind.
Thank you.
And I could, oh, go
I'm
ahead, sorry.
Commissioner Gold, I still see that you have your hand up. Did you want to add anything else?
No, that was an accident, sorry.
Oh, no, you're good. Thank you. I'm sorry, Kayla, please go ahead.
No problem. So I was just going to do some brief kind of reminders. So we're not doing a review panel training because everyone who's still on the commission now was on the commission at the beginning of 2021 and so got that training. But I just wanted to go through some general reminders as we jump back into doing review panels here in the next month or so. So one, we really appreciate all the work that folks put in last year. You really had a banner year. You beat your numbers at least back to 2016, which is what we have readily available. So we really appreciate that. And we're looking forward to another year. I want to encourage any communication with the department if you run into any sort of technical issues, have questions, you know, sooner rather than later, if you can let us know just so we can help move things along. We would really appreciate that. I did just some general reminders, especially for folks that maybe weren't on too many review panels last year, but are going to come up on some here shortly. The review panels only see cases that are no probable cause cases or dismissals from the department. So just a reminder, those are the only reviewable cases that come to those review panels. You don't see like the probable cause determination cases or the mediated cases because there isn't an appeal procedure for those. So just something to keep in mind. The standard that the review panels are applying is whether the department clearly erred in its decision. There's been a little bit of confusion, I think, over the probable cause standard that we apply in the department. And so I just wanted to put people on notice that we are currently working on some standard language that's going to start going in every determination that we issue, just to try to explain that and just make sure that everyone is on the same page. I also wanted to note for folks that our process is administrative, so it doesn't replace the judicial process. So just kind of a note and a reminder that each complainant, even if they're given a no probable cause determination or a dismissal of their case, they do also get a right to sue letter, which does allow them to sue out their case in court if they would like to. They also receive this if they get a sustaining order from the review panel. So just something to keep in mind. I did also note we saw some recommendations and some remands that came back to the department of some of kind of the logistical and organizational pieces of how the department and the commission kind of interact with each other when we have that extra part of the process. And so I just wanted to note that we are going to start signing and dating remands to make sure that it's clear kind of where they fall in the process. because we got some questions about that. I think understandably so. It felt a little bit jumbled. And then we also made some updates to the SharePoint site that you all access to look at case files to try to make it just a little bit more user friendly and straightforward, and make sure that you can find all the documents that you need to find. So one of many things that we changed was we added a remand tab. So if a case has been remanded and like we've issued a remand memo and then it goes back to a review panel to view, it's going to have a tab that'll have that remand memo, but then also everything that's happened since the remand. So if we did an additional investigation and we have additional materials, it'll all be in that one spot. So it's just a little bit more clear, you know, what was done in response to the remand itself. And then oh, and I guess the only thing that I would note with some of our changes to like the determinations and adding some of that standard language, you are going to be seeing older cases first. So you're not going to see that change right away because a lot of the cases that the commission will review in the first half of this year have been outstanding for many months. And so just so you know, if you're not to be surprised if you don't see that right away, but we are doing that with all the determinations that come out kind of from this point forward. And with that, I will turn it over to Ashley, who you already heard from a little bit, but just to introduce herself, let you know kind of the role that she's going to play moving forward with the review panels.
I'm sorry, before Ms. Gold jumps in, we do have a question in the chat from Commissioner Stignati. Commissioner Stignati, could you please ask Kayla your question, please, sir?
Certainly, I would say it might be more efficient if we have a kind of a bulk list of the names and of the respondent and complainants to the attorneys so that we can run our at one time, and then you know who's clear and who's not. Just it might be easier to do it in batch versus one at a time. Because I think
I think that. Oh, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, it's fine.
So yeah, I appreciate the suggestion, Commissioner Stignati. It's certainly something that we can consider. We are planning to send all of the conflict of interest for all of the cases that have currently been assigned. So it's now, you know, for the next 6 months or so, we're going to send all of those right away here, like this week, so that we can kind of figure out conflicts well ahead of things actually, you know, needing to have a decision made.
It's just easier for my processes as well inside the firm. So. Much appreciated.
Sure. Thank you. Ms.
Sure.
Gold?
So with that, I will turn it over to Ashley Gold.
All right, thank you. Hi, everyone. It's good to be back in the mix of things. On the other side, I'm just doing a quick introduction that I'm taking over Matthew's position with the commission because he was kind of like the point of contact for everybody, sending you guys the cases. So if you have any questions or run into any problems with SharePoint or conflict of interest, you can just reach out to me and I'll put my contact info in the chat, my work cell, so you can text me. And I'll also be the one like harassing you if, you know, like how I was doing last year in like a really friendly way, you know, when we need to get things finished on deadline. And then I just wanted to share a little bit about being a part of the department. You know, I've gained new insight, which is exciting, having the perspective of being a former commissioner. And I just really want to, I guess, push that we are all a team and like really working together to advance the civil rights for our city. And we're in this together. We're all fighting the good fight together. So thanks, y'all.
Thanks, Ashley. I appreciate it. So I think that's everything that we have on behalf of the department and review panels. If there are any other questions, happy to take them, but looking forward to another successful year.
Thank you so much for that update. Does any of the commissioners have any questions or concerns they would like to address at this time? Ashley did put her information in the chat. Okay, seeing none, I will ask the clerk to receive and file that report. Thank you so much. Item number 9, subcommittee scheduling. Is there someone that will be discussing subcommittee scheduling?
I apologize. I forgot I was on that one too. It's a busy night for me tonight. So this is also just a brief one, but I just wanted to take a moment, and anyone who has not gotten back to Diana about subcommittee scheduling to confirm the dates that she had sent out to all of the subcommittee chairs, please do that as soon as possible. She can't actually schedule anything in LIMS until she gets, something back from the commissioners running the subcommittee saying that, yes, these dates sound good, or, if there's any changes that you need to see made. But I don't think any of the subcommittees met this month, other than the Housing Advisory Task Force or Work Group. I apologize. And the reason for that is we can't schedule it until we hear from you that these are the dates that you would like it actually scheduled. So please do that as soon as possible. If you have any questions about that, feel free to reach out to Diana, reach out to myself, but we're hoping that we can get those moving this month. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Does any commissioners have any questions or concerns they would like to address regarding subcommittee scheduling? Seeing no further questions, I will ask the clerk to receive and file that report. Item number 10, public comments. The next order of business is acceptance of public comments. I will open the floor and invite comments from community. Each speaker will be allowed 2 minutes. Are there any community members on the line who wish to address the commission at this time?
Yes, my name is Bob Warfield. I'd like to address the commission.
Yes, sir. Please go ahead.
Yes, I'd like to address the commission on this ongoing saga of the Hiawatha Golf Course, and I have some very concerning feelings about what's going on with the Minneapolis Park Board and how they are being so almost vindictive and non-relenting in trying to close this golf course, which has a huge significance of historical and cultural value for the Black community. We've tried to talk to them, work with the Minneapolis Park Board on different ways that they could keep the course open, things they could do. They seem to be pretty much, excuse my language, hell-bent on reducing it to an unusable and unworkable 9-hole golf course. And, there's a couple things that stand out in my mind that really concerns me at how they're addressing this. I kind of look at the Columbia Heights Golf Course and how the Mississippi watershed kind of stepped in when they had some water issues. And I'm sure it's a lot more complicated than I'm making it sound right now, but just for the length of time I have. But the Minnehaha watershed, which is responsible for a lot of the issues going on with the Hiawatha Golf Course, has not stepped up in any way whatsoever as the golf course in Northeast Minneapolis received. And then there's also the incidence of the golf course being allotted almost $900,000 in FEMA money to repair itself. That money was then taken and divided along with 2 other golf courses to do capital improvements for golf courses that weren't even involved in the flooding incident. That in and of itself makes me feel as though the Hiawatha Golf Course is not being given the same treatment as others. I think it's just an issue that the park board and the commissioner who is specifically in charge of that area really doesn't have a concern for the historical or cultural value that I'm placing on it and the Black community is placing on that golf course. And I just wanted to just put that out there to the commission and go on record as saying that it just doesn't seem like it's being treated in the same manner.
Thank you, Bob, for bringing that to our attention. We greatly appreciate it. You mentioned that you communicated with the park board, your council member. Have you tried to reach out to the mayor?
Yes, we have had meetings with Mayor Fry and his group. I could give you a list. There's just a large number of folks who we've talked to, we've worked with. The representative and the senators for the area, and they've been very responsive. However, the park board has kind of taken a position that we can kind of do what we want with this, and I, having the, I don't know, the authority to do something is one thing, but I just, we are still in conversations. We've got allies in different places. I just wanted to go on record with the commission as saying that I, just looking at how this course has been treated over the years, it just doesn't feel right.
Thank you again, Bob, for sharing that information. I have a question for Ms. Neff. Considering that we do mostly employment discrimination, what is something that we could possibly do to address this community members' concerns? Or Kayla, whoever wants to address Bob's concerns.
This is Andrea speaking.
Yes.
I'll do my best, Commissioner Devenish, although I don't exactly perceive that there's a legal issue here. I would say that the park board operates completely separately from the city. So the commission's role here could be one of an advocate to advocate if it felt that this was a civil rights issue for the park board to take an action. But you wouldn't have this is not something that our city council would be deciding because the park board is a separate legal entity that we can't influence in quite the same way. Does that answer your question, at least from a legal perspective?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for addressing that. Does any other commissioner would like to ask Bob any questions? I do see someone's hand raised. I'm trying to see who it is. I'm sorry. Mr. Fine. Sorry. Thank you.
Right. It may not be the kind of thing the commission really looks at this issue on Hiawatha Golf Course and the Minneapolis Park Board as like the cases that we hear, but the Civil Rights Commission and in the past has been an advocate on civil rights issues. And it might be a good idea, and Mr. Warfield probably would like this, is that maybe the chair of the Civil Rights Commission sends an inquiry or a letter to the park board asking them what steps or considerations they've made to consideration of what they're doing regarding the golf course, because it's historically been seen by the African American community as an important golf course and amenity to the park system for them, as well as where they hold this bronze tournament, which is primarily an African American golf tournament every year. And the worry is that this golf course will disappear and will greatly impact it. So I think Mr. Warfield probably would like at least the Civil Rights Commission to sort of step forward and inquire on the park board as to how, what they've done regarding these considerations.
Mr. Fine, I think that is a great idea. Since you brought it up and you seem to already have the language flowing, is that something that you can help draft up?
Sure.
Thank you so much, Mr. Fine. Is there any other commissioners who would like to help Mr. Fine develop and draft this letter?
This is Commissioner Kobia. I can help if needed.
Thank you, Commissioner Kobia. Mr. Warfield, does that help satisfy your comment and inquiry towards the Civil Rights Commission? Is that Mr. Fine, Commissioner Fine, and Commissioner Kobia will help draft a letter inquiring to the park board in terms of what steps they have taken? Does that help your issue, sir?
It certainly does, and I certainly appreciate it. I did not come forward to looking for you to solve my problems. I just wanted to go on record and ask for any assistance necessary, and that certainly would help with that assistance.
Yes, so I do personally believe that that is what we're here for, is to try to help in whatever capacities we can when we can. So thank you so much, Commissioner Fine, and thank you, Commissioner Kobia, for addressing Mr. Warfield's comment. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Is there any other community members on the line that would like to address the commission at this time? Seeing none. I want to thank all, I'm sorry.
Hello. Yes. Hello. My
Yes.
name is. Yes. My name is Dave Bicking. I would like to address the commission. I'm interested in the process that has been followed or not followed for getting more members on the commission, the application and approval process. I follow the Police Conduct Oversight Commission very closely and attend all their meetings. This was the first I had heard that the process that they have been using this year is a pilot program. If this is a pilot program, the only reasonable lesson to learn from it is to do everything exactly the opposite. The program for getting applications has been an unmitigated disaster over at the PCOC. They still don't have new members. They didn't have quorum at their March meeting. I doubt very much they'll have quorum at their April meeting. They also closed their application process at the end of October. At that time, there's 2 people I know who had applied, that I personally know. Both of them were notified that their applications were received. Neither of those people has received any update whatsoever since the time they put in their application. There has been no communication whatsoever with the applicants to explain what was going on. Once again, the commission assumed that they would have new members in January and found out, no, that it's going to be put off until May, rather, to have new members on the commission. This is absolutely a wrong process. There's no reason why that the appointments have to be made in the spring cycle when the terms end at the end of the year. That is exactly the opposite of what you would logically expect. So I'm sorry to hear that the Civil Rights Commission is having the same problem. I think it's a pattern of the city and the Civil Rights Department doing what they can to frustrate the work of both of the commissions. Just briefly, your next topic on the agenda is the after action report from Hillard Heinz. I'd like to say that's a private outfit. They were contracted by the city to do this rather than the city doing an evaluation by people who know something about Minneapolis and were here at the time when this happened. The reason they contracted with them, they were not the low bidder, but rather Hillard Heinz as an international corporation that is in the business of preventing and responding to civil unrest. They're hardly an unbiased organization, and they found the problem to be a lack of success in putting down dissent rather than the problem being the very serious injuries and constitutional violations that occurred during that time. And because of the report, that's what the media is covering, and that they're not giving proper attention to the real harms to the community that happened at that time. Thank you.
Thank you, Dave, for that update. We do appreciate your time. Is there any commissioners that would like to comment to or add to Dave's comments at this time? Okay, thank you, Dave, for your comment. We do appreciate you calling in and participating. I want to thank all the speakers for their comments tonight. Next, number 11, unfinished business. Civil Unrest Act After Action Review presentation to the City Council. I'm not
So I
sure
see-
who will be speaking on that, but could that person please present?
That's me. This is
Okay.
Commissioner Stignani. I asked the Civil Rights Department to put this into the agenda just so everyone has a chance to look at it and read it. Much like our Mr. Bicking's commentary earlier, I find this less than helpful. As for everyone's attention, we are still trying to get the Minneapolis Police Department to deliver less than lethal rounds data to us. The statements about the less than lethal rounds in this report do in some level conflict based upon what our understandings with our discussion with Lieutenant Kingsbury of Minneapolis at the MPD. So again, it's another piece of information. We are still attempting to get less than lethal weapons data from the Minneapolis Police Department. We're just not going away until they show up with this. So at the end of the day, we hopefully will have a better sense of this answer than this report was given. So again, it's we take it as it's presented, but again, also I think some of their fact finding is erroneous based upon my interviews with the MPD as well. So that's really all that I have to say about that. I encourage people to take a look at it. It is public record, so everyone should read it. And then also the lawsuits, civil lawsuits, as Ms. Cole had brought forth, are beginning to settle on these. And so as those lawsuits begin to settle, more of the discovery will become readily available around this as well. So more to come.
Thank you, Commissioner Stignani. I have a question. Is there anything that any of the commissioners or the department can do to best support you?
Well, anybody know about anybody in the police department?
I don't.
So, no, I say that in facetious. I mean, we're going through the process, and the process had, what we've received thus far has been non-responsive, and also there have been a number of 1337s, essentially removing, which is a data practices declaration that there's some security evidence, there's security data that is being protected by not disclosing that, even though the ammunition manufacturer, which was redacted, is on every single round that's in the photos that have been used in all the riots. So again, Kayla is being greatly helpful in getting through, getting requests through there. We're going to keep pushing until something comes through.
Thank you, sir, for your work. I'm just wondering, is that something that do you think the mayor can help out on?
I'm sure he could.
I'm wondering if Kayla can, because she's great at reaching out to the mayor. Kayla, is there any way that you can help Commissioner Stignani arrange an appointment with the mayor to ask him if he can help resolve or have a communication about Mr. Stignani's work?
Commissioner Devenish, thanks for the question. I would say we certainly can consider something in that realm. I know that we've talked about putting together a list of a variety of topics that the commission would like to discuss with the mayor in the mayor's office. So maybe this would be one of the things that goes on that list.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Stignani, is that something that would help you?
Of course. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Any other questions or concerns from the commission? Seeing none, we'll move on to number 12, commission payment.
Commissioner.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I apologize, Commissioner Devenish. I believe Bob Fine has his hand up. Commissioner Fine has his hand up.
No, it was from before.
Oh, sorry. Okay.
So if we could move on to item number 12, which is commission payment update.
And that is me as well. So hi everyone again. So I just, again, this is another quick update, but it's in response to some of the feedback that we got throughout the year last year, where there was just some challenges with the payment forms and who they were going to and how they were getting processed. So we have streamlined the system. We met with finance to make sure that we were doing this in as straightforward and clear a way, hopefully making it a little bit easier on you all. So in the agenda, you'll see a new protocol that you can open, but I'll also just open it here so we can all be looking at it very quickly. Can you see my screen?
Yes, ma'am.
Great. Okay, so this is a step-by-step guide. As you can see by the lack of bullet points, it's really not too complicated or shouldn't be. So we have updated the payment form. I'm not going to show it on here because it has like our vendor, our funding strings and things like that, but it's very straightforward. Really all you need to enter in, it's going to be a fillable PDF form, and all you have to enter in is your name, your address, the date of whatever you're asking for payment for. So whether that's a commission meeting or a review panel, you're going to need to fill in the amount of payment that you're requesting. I have a reminder here, but it's also on the form, that it's $35 for monthly commission meetings and $100 for review panel sessions. There's a drop down option in the fillable PDF form that only has those two options to hopefully make it, just that much easier to know what to choose. And then you'll need to put your vendor code, enter your vendor code into the form and sign it. But you will not need to send it back to the department for any sort of signatures. You can send it directly to our finance department at submitinvoices@minneapolismn.gov. You can see the email address right there. That email address is also on the new form. So you'll have it in multiple places, and you can submit more than one payment form at a time, like on a single email, but each payment form has to be an individual PDF. So you can't submit one, for instance, that has a line for a commission meeting and then also a line for a review panel session. Each payment you're requesting has to be a separate PDF, but they can all be attached in one email. That email will go directly to the finance folks who will process the forms, and then they will submit it back to us, to me, to do the final approval and sign off. So I'm not signing anything at the front end, just after it goes through the finance process as kind of the final step. I also provided the contact person over in finance to reach out to if you run into any issues with this kind of new technical process. Her name is Jean. You can see her email right there. And we will get that new commission payment form out to folks within the next day or two, so that you have that and can start filling it out. I know we've said this before, but it still stands that this tends to go better and just be a little bit more smooth if you can complete the payment forms as close to the time you actually engage in whatever the activity is as possible. So for instance, once you have this new form, you can fill it out for this commission meeting, get that submitted, and then we can get those payments out as soon as possible. Same thing with the review panels. Any questions?
I don't have any question. I do see that you did put the number in the chat for the standards and procedures, so community members can call in if they want to participate or ask any questions. Also, Commissioner Stagnotti asked, may we decline to be paid? Commissioner Shoemake said yes. Is that information correct?
That is correct. Yes, you can choose not to fill out the form, and there's no adverse consequence.
Okay, thank you so much. Are there any other questions or concerns from commissioners at this time? Seeing none, I'll ask the clerk to receive and file that report. New business. Any new business?
I have one thing to mention. This is Commissioner Kobia.
Yes, please go ahead, sir.
It's very quick. I just wanted to let you all know that the University of Minnesota Law School, which is my alma mater for law school, has just announced that they're going to have a racial justice law clinic. And I plan to reach out once the person who is in charge of that actually comes over to the school. I think she previously worked for the NAACP. But once that's up and running, I plan to reach out. So I just wanted to let everyone know I may have an update at some point in the future regarding this, but I don't really have anything yet. But they do have a clinic, so we may have an opportunity, or they may be able to help us, or we may be able to help them. I don't know, but that's sort of where it's at.
Commissioner Colby, I have a question. I'm not sure how it works. Is that something community members can listen into or participate in, or is that just you have to be a student to participate?
Sure. Let me give a little more background. So the law clinics at the university are opportunities for law students to conduct real world lawyering, basically. So I was in a special education clinic, and what we did was helped students who had disabilities or whatever IEPs, and we would advocate for them at due process hearings. So what I imagine this clinic will do is some combination of possibly legal outreach or legal writing related to racial justice issues in Minneapolis and Minnesota. But they may also take cases. So it's possible that they could represent people even at the department. I really don't know what their scope is going to be, and I'm sure it'll, change over the years. But it's law students who are somehow participating in real world legal issues to gain experience. Usually it's 3Ls, but it can be students in their second year as well.
Thank you, Commissioner Colby. I do see Commissioner Stignati, your hand is raised. Please go ahead, sir.
Thank you. I just had another piece of new business if Commissioner Colby is finished.
I am.
So the ACLU in Minnesota has a new leader, Deepinder Mayal, and I was wondering if they would be interested in having him visit one of our meetings in the upcoming future, just to introduce himself and make himself known to the commission in general.
Hey, this is Commissioner Crowder. I think it's a great idea. My wife again works for the ACLU, and they are extremely excited about him, and made a big push as the staff to make sure he was the one who was selected after they had interviewed him and some of the other candidates. So if you'd like, I could ask her to try and arrange, given that they're in close proximity. Happy to do it.
That or otherwise, I'll ask him over coffee. So if your wife gets there first, be happy to let her do it. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Just to let you know, in the chat, Commissioner Lord put a thumbs up, and in the chat, we do have the LinkedIn link for community members to see this individual. Thank you, everyone, for your comments. I request that the clerk receive and file that report. Report number 14, the final item on our agenda, is from Standards and Committees and Task Force. We will begin with Community Engagement Research Subcommittee, Commissioner Folk.
Yes, and this is for updates
Yes, ma'am.
from the commission, from the subcommittee. So I have just responded to Diana to get our subcommittee meeting set up for starting in April. So no kind of updates from our subcommittee until then, but first order of business, I think we'll be regrouping on submissions and discussing the awards that we want to nominate for this year and get those under the way.
Okay, and I would humbly request that we also put on the agenda time to discuss the Stop the Gun Violence Community Forum.
Yep, I can put that on. I was going to reach out to the broader subcommittee once we got the agenda, once we got the meetings on the calendar, to reach out for agenda topics so we can discuss as a committee. I guess my question is just, I'm not sure where we landed last time on knowing that our committee is down one member and down technically the chair, if there was going to be any like additions to the subcommittees or if we were going to keep them as is before the new commissioners join. Maybe that's a question for Kayla.
Okay, I thought I saw something from Chair May that kind of outlined who's on what commission. Commissioner Schumake, do you remember seeing that email, or Kayla, do you remember discussing that with Chair May and who's serving on what subcommittee?
Yes, I do. I think I have some basic recollection. I believe the idea was that everyone was going to stay on their current subcommittees. I do see how that would maybe change depending on Commissioner Devenish, like what you wanted to do as vice chair, if you wanted to remain on that subcommittee. But I believe you had expressed interest in staying on that subcommittee. So I don't think that particular subcommittee is down a member. But I also know that we might have some officers from last year who maybe weren't on
It's down a
committees
member.
then.
Oh, sorry. It's down a member because Commissioner Gold left the commission and she was the chair. And I was vice chair, and I am now within the chair position because Commissioner Gold had left the commission, but just there wasn't any like formality in that. So just wanting to get some clarity on that.
Yeah, got it. Thank you for the clarification on that. Yeah, so what I guess I would foresee happening is that the subcommittee can decide amongst themselves if they'd like to, stick with the chair that they currently have as a whoever was chairing at the end of 2021, or if they'd like to elect a new chair. But I will, I guess I would note, because I think there might be a little bit of confusion remaining here. If you are not on a subcommittee because you were, an officer last year and so you weren't assigned to one, but you're not this year, something like that, please reach out. Let's have you reach out to Ashley Gold, and just let her know, and we'll try to help facilitate making sure Chair May assigns everyone to a subcommittee, just in case anyone was missed in that process.
Thank you. Moving forward, number 2, Standards and Procedures Subcommittee. Commissioner Fine, Chair. Mr.
Yes.
Stignati, Vice Chair. Would you like to share some updates, please, gentlemen?
The only update I can think of is we're meeting in 2 days, and reminder to anyone who wants to see the training to log on Wednesday. That's it.
Thank you, Commissioner Fine. Number 3, Workforce and Contract Compliance Subcommittee. Mr. Rance, who is the chair, Mr. Stignati, the vice chair. Gentlemen, would you like to please provide an update?
Commissioner Rance is still with us here.
Commissioner Rance, are you on? All right, can you hear us?
Otherwise, I can speak.
I just want to tell him that his microphone is muted, so if he is trying to speak, we can't hear him, so we would need him to unmute himself. But please go ahead, Mr. Stignati.
We have not met this year, so we are, I will take an action item away from this meeting to work with Commissioner Rance to set a time and place to meet here in the next few weeks, and have meet before the next meeting. We have a report.
Thank you, sir. Number 4, Vice Chair of the Civil Rights Commission. I do not have any updates at this time. Chair May is not in today, so no updates from her. Number 6, the Civil Rights Department Director of Complaint Investigation Division. Ms. Kayla, do you have any updates that you would like to share at this time, ma'am?
I do have a few. Thank you very much, Commissioner Devenish. I'm sorry that I'm talking so much this meeting. But one of the things that have been requested recently is that we provide more substantive updates on some of the work of the department. So I do have a few things that I was going to provide updates to the commission on. I will try to keep it brief, as I know that it's already past 8 o'clock. But a few kind of new developments in the complaint investigations realm and the Civil Rights Department realm that I wanted to touch on is, one, on the right to counsel ordinance. So this is an ordinance that went through a few months ago, and it provides a right to counsel to any resident of the city who is facing an eviction action, as long as they meet a certain financial criteria, which is 200% of the federal poverty guidelines. So the Civil Rights Department, and specifically the Complaint Investigations Division, has been working with CPED. I always have trouble spelling that one out. But you all have met with them before on different other housing initiatives. And what the city is doing to provide this guarantee of counsel for eviction proceedings is that we're contracting with Legal Aid, who, as many of you know, provides a lot of housing support, legal support in Minneapolis already, and does a lot of this work as an expert in eviction defense, or I apologize, in representing folks in eviction proceedings. So that being said, I just wanted the commission to know that is occurring, and Legal Aid is also, and the city is also working with Hennepin County, because they have a variety of folks assigned to this sort of representation as well. But it's a pretty cool change in the city and the county to be able to provide this sort of representation to folks. So if you do run into anyone or yourself are experiencing an eviction proceeding and do not have representation and meet those that criteria for income, definitely reach out to Legal Aid. You can reach out to the department as well, and we can help route you to Legal Aid to make sure that you do, you or whoever you might be in contact with who's experiencing this has the representation that they need and that they now are guaranteed under the ordinance. So that's one update, things going on there. That the Complaint Investigations Division, as a part of the department as a whole as well, has recently formalized a partnership with Seward Longfellow Restorative Justice, which is a restorative justice agency here in the city. They do obviously restorative justice work where they, it's a voluntary process where they try to bring folks together to make things right after harm has occurred. As I've talked about in previous meetings, and I'm sure that you all have understood over time, just looking at our cases, there are many complaints that come into the Complaint Investigations Division that don't necessarily fit squarely under the ordinance and don't fit as a case that we can necessarily file a charge of discrimination and investigate, but they still might pose problematic allegations of behavior that's taking place. And so we took this step to reach out to some external community partners to see if there's good places where we can send folks and make sure that they do get some form of assistance, even if it isn't something that our division can particularly take on and provide. So we're really excited about it. The types of cases that we've already started referring that way are neighbor to neighbor style discrimination claims. So like a homeowner to another homeowner, neither of those folks would necessarily fall under an entity that we can pursue a discrimination case against, such as an employer, a property owner who's like a landlord, and things of that nature. So we wanted to have some place where those types of cases could go. So those are the types of cases we've started referring that way. And the Seward Longfellow Restorative Justice kind of has a whole set of tools that they can provide. The restorative justice process is a voluntary one, so there's not necessarily a guarantee that the person who is allegedly engaging in the problematic behavior will engage with a restorative process. But the really great thing is that this organization is prepared and regularly does provide additional resources to complainants or to the victims of this alleged behavior that goes beyond what the department necessarily could provide. So they could, for instance, provide support in gathering, additional neighbors to help this person feel more safe, or to have a phone tree that they would call if an incident happens, and anything else that really would provide support to the complainant. They're very focused on the person who's alleging the behavior. What do they need? What would be helpful to them? And they really have a pretty wide open field of then the resources and the assistance that they can provide. So we're excited about that, and we'll kind of report out as it makes sense to the commission and to others about how that is going, and any potential future changes we might make to that process. I do seem to see some questions, so I'm happy to answer those questions before I move on to my last point. And let me see. It looks like Commissioner Lord has her hand up.
Thanks,
Commissioner.
Kayla.
Oh, thank
So my question, well, I guess to contextualize it, I know that one thing we've struggled with in general has been getting, good data on programs. And with this being a new program, my question is, are we setting it up in such a way that we're going to be able to collect data on outcomes in order to, potentially support additional, assuming it works, potential additional investment into programs like this?
So yes, we have a, thank you very much for the question, Commissioner Lord. We do have a full reporting structure set up so that we'll be tracking all of the cases that get referred to this partner and tracking all the outcomes so that we can assess that. And then it
Great,
looks
thank you.
like, yeah, absolutely. And it looks like Commissioner Schumake has her hand up.
Yeah, thank you for presenting on this, Kayla. Can you share with us, how did this partnership come about?
Absolutely. So one of the, I mean, kind of the background is that especially both after the 2016 election and then after the pandemic began, we were hearing more and more about discrimination related incidents that were happening between kind of members of the public versus in an employment context and a housing context, kind of the things that we were more used to seeing. Not that it wasn't happening before that, but we were seeing more cases after those two kind of points in time. So that's what started our conversations about, could we formalize some partnerships with community organizations that would have the ability to address these types of situations beyond what the department could provide and the complaint investigations division could provide. And so that's what started us looking into kind of what those options could be. We also met with the Human Rights Commission in New York City to talk about some of their resources like this that handle these types of situations, because I think we've all seen in the news, there's been a lot of this stuff reported specifically in New York City. And they had expressed that they had a local restorative justice partner that they were referring cases to and felt that that was useful and successful. So that was our jumping off point. And then we reached out to pretty much, I believe, all of the local restorative justice agencies in the city of Minneapolis to see who was interested. And Seward Longfellow Restorative Justice reached out and was interested in partnering with us. And so that's how that was the jumping off point to, okay, what would a partnership look like? What sort of process could we follow? What types of cases could we send their way? What could they provide to the complainants? And we did do about a 6-month pilot with them with just a couple of cases to see how it would go and what our process should be. That was successful. We revamped some of our steps to make sure we were being as effective as possible, but now it's a formal partnership.
Awesome. I would say, just to kind of plant a seed, maybe if there's a way that a subcommittee could get involved with them, if there's like workshop or just kind of something we can do to increase our community engagement, that'd be awesome.
Really good segue to my next topic. So thank you, Commissioner Schumake. But I will definitely note that that there could be some interest in commission involvement. There is kind of another initiative that I just want to give the commission a very brief preview of that we plan to have more a formal presentation on, hopefully at the next monthly commission meeting. But the Complaint Investigations Division, in conjunction with the entire department and with Andrew Hawkins, who you've already heard from, and his staff, are working on a project that would provide a potential opportunity for some members of the commission to get mediation trained, so that you could potentially, as commissioners, and you would get the training kind of as a part of being on the commission, but you would participate as a mediator kind of outside of your commission role, right? You would be mediating as an individual, but a way for some of the commissioners to get more involved in our cases, and especially our cases that aren't necessarily getting a no probable cause cause determination or a dismissal determination. So we are in the process of kind of figuring out what exactly that would look like and what all we can fund and make available to the commission. But I am excited about it, and I hope it's something that commissioners are excited about. I will note that it will likely only be open to non-commissioners at this, or sorry, to non-attorneys at this time. And the only reason for that is because we're going to need so much time from our attorney commissioners with these public hearings coming up. So that's not a knock on our attorney commissioners at all, but just to provide an alternate option for our non-attorneys that can't participate in the public hearing process, and as well as to not overly tax our attorney commissioners who are already going to have quite a bit of time expected to put into those public hearing cases. I'm happy to take additional questions on that, but just to note that not all the details are ironed out, but we'll hopefully have more of those by the next commission meeting.
Thank you so much for that information, Kayla. We always appreciate you. And we appreciate everyone who provided some feedback and participated tonight. So thank you to everyone. With that,
Commissioner Devenish, sorry, it looks like Commissioner Lord has her hand up.
Oh, I'm sorry, Commissioner Lord, I didn't see you. Please go ahead.
Hi, I saw that the Housing Equity Task Force wasn't on the list. So if it's okay with everyone, I'll just provide a quick 30-second update on that task force. We did meet last week, and as you know, really the key thing we've been trying to do is ascertain if the commission wants to endorse or support the Renter Opportunity to Purchase Act ordinance that the city has been looking at. And really the question we have is, you know, is the city still pursuing this, since most of the individuals that were championing it are no longer on the city council. So really Councilperson Ellison is the only one who is championing it that's still left. We actually decided as a next step to just try to reach out with him and connect with him directly, and have submitted to his office a formal request to meet with him to understand, you know, the fate of that ordinance. So hopefully we'll be able to get that connection. You know, I would say if there is a commissioner that has a direct relationship with Commissioner Ellison, please, you know, let me know. But that's the status of the Housing Equity Task Force. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Commissioner Lord, for your update, and thank you for everyone who's participating and helping with that as well. Thank you. And just to let you know, Commissioner Shoemake put in the chat that she knows someone and that she will reach out. Commissioner Shoemake, do you want to speak a little bit to that comment, ma'am?
Sure. Just one of my friends worked on his campaign, and another friend of mine, I have many shared friends with him and friends that work for him. So I will have no problem making a phone call tomorrow.
Thank you, Commissioner Shoemake. I appreciate that. Thank you so much.
Of course, Commissioner Lord, if you'd want to just shoot me an email with what you want me to follow up on exactly, that'd be great.
Brilliant. I would be happy to do that. Thanks so much, Chanel.
Of course.
Is there any other commissioners who would like to comment at this time? I will ask the clerk to receive and file the information, the report that's been shared. Thank you so much. And with that, we will adjourn. We've concluded all of our items on our agenda for this meeting. As always, I look forward to see you everyone back next month. Our meeting will be held April 18th, our regular meeting. I will declare that this meeting adjourned, and to see no other business come before us without objection. Does anyone object? No? Okay. With no objection, this meeting has ended, and for those who need to stay on for the executive committee meeting.